Hello everybody, welcome to the TrueLife News Show today. Yes, it is true. It's not no joke. It's not no April Fools, nothing like that, guys. This is huge. Elon Musk said that the U.S. government deleted a terabyte of financial data to cover their crimes within the department. And yes, the Doge team was able to recover it all. This department was the Institute of Peace, which, by the way, I would say wasn't doing a very good job at it. But they have now been caught red-handed deleting data, not just any data, financial data that had ties to people, had ties to a lot of money, government employees and officials within the system in a very negative way. This is one of the biggest scandals that is going to hit this United States, guys, because now we actually have the evidence. They were able to recover it. We knew it. And now this hardcore evidence is going to produce a lot of people that are going to see a lot of maybe jail time, maybe fines. That's why I asked you in the comment section what you thought about that. But let me know, what do you think should happen to these people? Let me know in the comments, because this is huge. They were literally caught deleting, guys, this wasn't a little bit of data, a terabyte of data. And so with that, now it's being handed over to the Department of Justice, Pam Bondi, for them to start seeking the next steps in their investigations and holding people accountable before Congress. This is what we wanted, guys. We want to see the arrest happen. We want to see people being held accountable with yours and my taxpayer dollars that we busted our butts for and didn't have a choice and gave to the government. We want to know what the heck's going to happen next, and I'm going to keep you updated. We also are having massive hearings today in Congress over the overreach of the federal district court judges that have been issuing TROs, or temporary restraining orders, against sitting President Donald Trump to stop his agenda and his executive orders. And things are getting very heated in Congress today. Even Newt Gingrich was in on it today, and everyone is begging the question, who is in charge? Is it the judges? Is it federal district judges? Is it the sitting president? Right now, they are pushing for an emergency trial to be sent to the Supreme Court to issue a ruling on whether or not these federal district judges have a constitutional right to stop all of Trump's agenda in terms of his executive orders. And also, a statement was made today that 92% of the judges that have issued these blanket nationwide injunctions against Trump's administration have been appointed by Democrats. Very biased, very one-sided. This is all getting hashed out today, guys. We also are close to Liberation Day in the United States of America. A lot of countries are dropping their tariffs so they won't be hit with reciprocal tariffs, like Israel, who's removed all tariffs on U.S. goods to avoid President Trump's reciprocal tariffs. Guys, America is winning. We got a ton of breaking news to get into today. I want to say thank you to everybody who is watching, all of our subscribers, all of our viewers. If you're not subscribed, please consider joining our TrueLife News family and being here so we can serve you with the top news every single day. I want to say thank you to all of our members of the channel. Guys, y'all are the best. Thank you so much for supporting us as we give back to charity and grow this community. And thank you to everybody that gives a super chat donation. Guys, we are so grateful for your supports yesterday. Y'all did an amazing job, and we're going to be able to give so much back to charity. It's all because of you. I want to give some shout outs, though, to GTHS Touch 791. Show them some love in the chat. Elaine Demeen, James Lufrano, already B1 Sly One in the chat. Guys, show them some love. And guys, if you don't mind doing us a huge favor of hitting that thumbs up like button, it really does help out the channel so much. We're here to serve you guys. We got some big news. They have finally caught the government deleting financial data to cover up their crimes, and now they're going to be answering in Congress. Check this out.
Chairman of the full committee for his opening statement, Mr. Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Who decides? That's the fundamental question. Who gets to make the call? Is it the guy whose name was on the ballot, or is it some bureaucrat? Is it the guy who got 77 million votes, or some district judge? The left always says, trust the bureaucrat, trust the judge. It's the Faucis, it's the Boasbergs who get to make the call. After all, they're the experts. They're smarter than we, the people. They're smarter than all us hillbillies in flyover country who voted for President Trump. Trust them. That's not how it works. We, the people, have the power. And you know what's interesting? For all the left's talk about democracy, they don't really trust it. Last summer, they kicked their nominee off the ballot without a vote, without an election, and they put someone else on the ballot without a vote, without an election. So, of course, they like some judge issuing orders or injunctions that stop the head of the executive branch from doing what he said he was going to do when he ran for the job and when the American people elected him. Think about it. Here in D.C., an elected judge thinks she's better equipped to determine military readiness than the commander-in-chief. An unelected judge in California thinks he gets to decide how many probationary employees work in the executive branch, not the guy who was elected to run the executive branch.
Wow.
Another unelected federal district judge here in D.C. thinks he gets to decide how long illegal gang member terrorists stay in our country, not the president, not the commander-in-chief. And now that same judge gets randomly assigned the Hexeth case, and he'll get to determine who the Secretary of Defense can talk to and how he has to do it, not the president. I think Americans see through this all. They know Representative Ice's legislation is exactly what's needed. They know who they elected, and they want him to make decisions that affect the executive branch, that affect our country. So I want to thank our chairman, Mr. Issa and Mr. Roy, for this hearing. I want to thank Mr. Issa for his bill. Mr. Schmidt, a member of our committee, who we put an amendment, his amendment on that bill, which I think makes it even stronger. We passed that legislation 4 weeks ago. It's going to be on the floor tomorrow. It's going to pass the House. I want to thank our witnesses for being here. Ms. Romero, what you've went through, thank you for coming. And of course, Speaker Gingrich, for your half a century of service to the Constitution and the country, thank you for joining us. That is the question, though. Who decides? The individuals that we, the people, elect, or someone else? I yield back.
Gentleman yields back.
Guys, this is going to be a big, big day, guys. I got some intense videos for y'all to see in just a moment, guys. But right here, Elon Musk says Institute of Peace wiped out terabyte of data to cover crimes. This is huge, guys. This was posted late last night, following into today on the cover page. We are seeing history in the making, guys. Not only are we seeing people being held accountable, Elon Musk says U.S. government deleted a terabyte of financial data to cover their crimes, but they don't understand technology, so we recovered it. How big is this? This is what we've been waiting for somebody to come in and actually know what to do, know how to do it in order to do what? To hold people accountable. That's what we've been asking for, because we knew something was going on. We knew they were making their money in some sort of way. And now we actually have the data. We actually have the evidence to hold these people accountable to what we've known all along. And now it's getting very heated. White House counsel, she's still there as the White House counsel, but is America is changing forever. Want to say thank you so much, Lay Lewis, for the super chat. Let's go. Says, sounds like some folks better get used to ear striped pajamas. Let's go. Y'all show Lay Lewis some love in the chat. Check this out.
Go swimmingly with that, but I have to drag you back into the lawfare routine because it just never stops. And yet, most people agree it didn't help them. If anything, it hurt the Democrats in the 2024 elections. Why are they sticking with it?
Look, obviously, I have to be careful now and not to be political, so I'm going to speak generally. But here's the problem that we have generally as a country with this, is that we have to have judges refocus. And I know that in the state of New Jersey, my focus is going to be on real crime, violent crimes. Obviously on the civil side, there are issues, but you have to let each branch do what they need to do. And I really believe that. If you look at how great he's doing and what America loves it. And I'm not sure why these judges are stopping or doing this or saying that criminals should be in this state and things of that nature. I'd really love to understand why they think that it's wrong to keep a criminal, kick them out of this state, out of the country. But I can tell you for New Jersey, I gave clear directives today. They're going. We're out. We're not playing games with this. And if judges want to try and hold us back on that, that's going to be problematic.
By the way,
guys, and again, too, like, this is what I love, is that Trump is putting so much of his pit bulls in so many places to hold people accountable. And the biggest thing is exposing it all, guys. There's reasons why these blue states have been blue for a long time. You put in the right people, I promise you, they're going to turn red. If you appreciate this, guys, if you don't mind hitting that thumbs up like button, thank you so much for your support.
Judge Boasberg's, he's the judge that brought to light the Alien Enemies Act, saying that it wasn't applicable in this case. I know you probably can't comment on that case, but I'm just curious, do you know when the Supreme Court might get a hold of that?
Yeah, I think like anything, the White House counsel's office and all of them will continue to push their cases through, obviously, vigorously. And if the Supreme Court has to take it up, they will. Look, I don't think any lawyer wants to have to end up, or maybe they do, but in the Supreme Court, I don't think we should have to be in this situation in general. I just prefer that everybody respects each other's branches.
Yes.
The executive branch and the judicial branch should not be continuously fighting. I don't think that's healthy for this country. I don't think that's what America wants. I think we need to be cohesive. We need to regroup as a country, and we need to all be on the same team, and that is not dragging each other through court.
Right. Now, this is an immigration issue that has to do, or could have to do, with you, specific action you might be involved with. Elon Musk is finding more details out about the millions of migrants who came here under Biden. He says about 5.5 million of them have now received Social Security cards, because, of course, he's looking into all the details about what's happened with Social Security, and that people with those cards, non-citizens, some of them anyway, have been registering to vote. That is what Biden's open border policies were really all about. That's what he's saying. Of course, that would be illegal. But here is Elon Musk over the weekend. Roll tape.
People sometimes think that under the Biden administration that he was simply asleep at the switch. He wasn't asleep. They weren't asleep at the switch. It was a massive, large-scale program to import as many illegals as possible, ultimately to change the entire voting map of the United States and disenfranchise the American people.
So, Alina, would you be working if the DOJ gets hold of this and tries to track down some of these illegals that were voting? I assume that U.S. attorneys such as yourself would be working with ICE to try to track them down, no?
So let me tell you exactly what I did today, my first meeting with my team. I did two things that were very important to me. Number one, I created a human trafficking task force for the state of New Jersey, which I will announce. And I'm announcing it to you, actually, David. So one of my first things, my first order of business was I wanted a human trafficking task force. Second thing I asked to do was meet with the individuals that are dealing with voter fraud with this exact type of issue. We have a real problem, especially in New Jersey, but generally speaking, we should not have people voting that should not vote. You don't get to choose who is running for, even whether it be state officials, federal officials. We should not have this problem. It shouldn't be the case. And what Elon's talking to, I can't speak to, but I told Elon before I left, I invite him to come to New Jersey and Doge, whatever he would like to do, because I am truly on the side of getting our voter rolls cleaned up and getting all of that straightened out so people that are voting are the right people.
Boy, two vital things, the voting rolls and trafficking. I can never stop thinking about those kids that were being used by these horrible, horrible, malicious traffickers, used to get people across the board, then they go back and be used again, not to mention what's happening to them here. I'm so glad you're working on that. Alina, best of luck to you.
Don't do it in New Jersey.
Good for you. Good for you. Stay tough.
What crazy, crazy news, guys. Because again, too, we are seeing this across the board. That and everybody's going crazy over this. Everybody's saying treason, prison, put him in jail. Elon Musk says the U.S. government deleted a terabyte of financial data to cover their crimes. We've got Newsweek that is reporting on it now. It was the Institute of Peace. Wow. The Institute of Peace was the very one that they were funneling all these crimes through, funneling all this money, all the taxpayers' money, and they tried to delete it, didn't know how to properly do it, and Doge came in and fixed it all together, guys. Because let me tell you this, unless you put fire to it, unless you damage it, run it over, hit it with a hammer, certain things, you can recover data in any PC or computer. Just know that. This is what I do for a living, guys. With my other business, I got a marketing business, and it's very, your data can be recovered even if it's been deleted. But this right here just shows you we knew it was going on. We knew it was happening, and it's about dang time that they be held accountable, guys. Because if we don't, they're going to continue to try to control everybody. I want to say thank you so much, Lay Lewis, for the super chat. He said, Joel, wearing some striped PJs, 100%. Y'all show Lay some love in the chat. Check this out.
It was Andrew Breitbart that brought Gramsci, the Italian Marxist thought in the Frankfurt School, to a working class and middle class audience in the Tea Party. Let me just read from Gramsci. Socialism is precisely the religion that must overwhelm Christianity. In the new order, socialism will triumph by first capturing the culture via infiltration of the schools, the universities, the churches, and the media, by transforming the consciousness of society. They're not shy. It's up in your face. It's up in your grills. This is why I'm saying we can't narrowcast what's happening at these universities, just the situation in Gaza and just the situation in Israel. It's far deeper than that. It's Israel as a manifestation of the Judeo-Christian West. We have to pull the camera back. And I'm saying for these public Ivies, I don't care if Michigan cut the $250 million DEI, it's not good enough. We need not just the Ivy Leagues. You need to go to the public Ivies at Michigan, at Wisconsin, at Charlottesville, University of Michigan, University of Wisconsin, University of Virginia, University of North Carolina, University of Texas in Austin, Berkeley. We're throwing University of Arizona and University of Florida. I'll throw those two in for now. All those public Ivies. Go to them immediately and say, the billions of dollars we give you, you're not getting a penny, and we want to purge, and I mean purge, the faculty senate, the faculty department, lounge, and we want to purge the administration. We want cultural Marxists out.
Yes.
Out. We're not going to pay for it. Taxpayers are not going to pay for this. Not one of those states can afford the billions of dollars. They will crumble like Columbia University crumbled. They will shatter like Columbia University. Columbia University surrendered in 48 hours. They will surrender. Michigan's right now trying to get ahead of it. Oh, we cut the DEI, we cut the $250 million. It's not good enough. There's a dark revolution in this country, and we're going to put it down. There's no area for compromise here. None. I keep telling people. And all the happy talk and guys running around, if you're still got the glow from the inauguration, get woke up now. Awaken.
Dang.
This is a fight for this country. And it couldn't be more evident right now. And I'm telling you, their goal is to put President Trump into prison and have him die in prison, just like in Bolsonaro, just like Le Pen. If you think differently, you're dreaming. This is what they want. They want the Republican Party to be the controlled opposition, to run around. We're going to do this. We're going to cut your taxes. Look at where this country got because of that. It was Trump that saved this nation.
Yep.
And it ain't saved yet. We need to be on offense. The tariffs are going on offense on the geoeconomic reboot. We just found out the president, they're going to actually move the event. Tomorrow is moving to 4 o'clock. I assume it's also going to move to 5. We're going to be covering it live all day tomorrow. But also, and I'm going to do a big conference tomorrow also in Washington, D.C. We'll stream that live. We'll get you all the information on all this. President Trump, the difference now than the first term, we actually have the tools, the personnel, and the policies that we've had in 4 years to go on offense every day, not just to be on defense. I cannot emphasize enough with this audience to break the corrupt system in this country that has basically stripped the wealth of the working class and the middle class and made you just glorified indentured servants. You must break these big law firms, and now the big law firms are almost inextricably linked with private equity. Going after Skadden Arps and Paul Weiss is monumental. And remember, when President Trump, they talk about $100 million of pro bono, that's what they're taking away from the left-wing groups they were doing all this stuff for, all this free legal at the top levels. These are the best law firms in the country. President Trump needs to focus on the team over there. The next target needs to be Latham & Watkins, formerly, I think, an LA firm that now is a powerhouse, Latham & Watkins, and it needs to be Latham & Watkins and the Carlyle Group, which had that corrupt David Rubenstein, who President Trump just threw out of the Kennedy Center. That needs to be a target. That's a rat's nest over there. The Carlyle Group and Latham & Watkins, you must go after that. We need to go on offense, fight, action on this.
Boom, baby. Because again, too, guys, everybody is starting to report it now. U.S. Homeland Security News, this is the big channel on X, is now reporting the Elon Musk and the federal government, they deleted a terabyte of financial data to cover their crimes, but we were able to recover it. Guys, if you appreciate this, if you don't mind hitting that thumbs up like button, thank you so much for supporting our channel. This is big, and this is why what's happening in Congress today, what I'm about to show you next, is so important, because when it comes to the money, it always boils down to the money. Where's it going? What's happening with it? Who's getting it? Because the more and more that we're finding that these people have been using our taxpayer dollars to just 100% overreach, not into just what our lives, but using it for their nefarious purposes to control everybody. It has just blown my mind. This has been happening, and it's barely been caught now because we had somebody like Elon Musk and Trump who stepped in to do what is right. Check this out.
Professor Shaw, so was Judge Boasberg correct when he said turn the plane around?
I think that protecting the jurisdiction of his court...
That wasn't the question. Was he correct when he said, turn the plane around, bring the guys back who harassed Miss Romero, drove her out of her home, harassed her neighbors, shot her car? Was he correct when he said, turn the plane around, bring those individuals back to the United States?
Based on the record before him, I think that was an absolutely defensible decision to have made in the time-pressured condition.
Miss Romero, what do you think? You agree with the professor and with the judge? Three of those individuals on the plane, Thomas Murillo Pena was wanted for kidnapping in Chile, was in the Denver area where they got him. Javier Vargas Lugo, attempted kidnapping, was in the Denver area. Nixon Azusa Perez was in the Aurora area. He may have been one of the guys who harassed you. Do you think that plane should have came back and brought those individuals back to the United States?
I feel safer every time a plane is loaded up and leaving this country.
Yeah, the previous member from California talked about your riveting testimony. One of the lines you had in your testimony that got everyone's attention was, quote, there are no government programs to grant citizens temporary protected status from imported gangs in our country. Amen to that. There is none. And that's why this is so important that we move these people out. Mr. Speaker, should the judge who's been assigned the Hegseth case, Judge Boasberg, should he recuse himself from that case? And understand the standard, I know you do, Speaker. The standard is a reasonable person. Would a reasonable person believe that this judge can't be impartial with this case? And I would just remind you of a couple things. This is the judge who was on the FISA court when they granted warrants to spy on President Trump's campaign. This is the judge who handled the Kevin Kleinsmith case, an FBI lawyer who lied to the FISA court to help get those warrants and was given a slap on the wrist by Judge Boasberg. Not my words, the Wall Street Journal said it, because it was. He was a member of the bar, lied to a court, and got some probationary sentence. So now this judge said, turn the plane around, and now he's been assigned the Hegseth case. And I'm just asking, do you think Judge Boasberg should recuse himself from that case?
Look, I think this is a classic case where the Chief Justice should intervene. I mean, when you have a blatant, continuing record of prejudice, that judge should not be put in charge of a case. And as I said earlier, I'm not for going through the whole process of impeachment because I think it's at a practical level not possible. I am, however, for using the potential capacity of the Congress to simply defund, which Jefferson did and which clearly, clearly is possible. But I think this...
All right, guys, so defund, what they're talking about. In just a couple of days, they're going to be issuing a new law that says that these rogue judges do not have the right to issue nationwide jurisdiction. If they keep trying to fight it, that's the next thing to move towards. Removing their funding altogether.
What you just described is illustrative of why I use the term coup d'etat. You have a small group of people who believe that they have the right to arrogate rejecting the American people and doing whatever they want and cooperating with people who clearly were behaving illegally. I mean, that's one of the great tragedies of the last 6 or 8 years is it's the government which has been illegal. It's the FBI which was illegal. And how can you possibly have the rule of law when the people in charge of the law are illegal? I think in that case, you raise a very powerful point.
Mr. Larkin, should Judge Boasberg recuse himself in the Hegseth case?
Oh, I don't want to offer an opinion about a specific case that I'm, know only.
Do you think Judge Boasberg, based on what the speaker just said, what I highlight, think Judge Boasberg has a bias against President Trump and what he's trying to accomplish?
That's just phrasing the same question another way. I don't want to comment on opinion.
That's what we do in Congress. That's
yeah, I know.
A lot of time.
Yeah, when I was an agent, we did the same thing to see if we could get the suspect to say something different.
How about this, Speaker Gingrich? I think you're exactly right. We have 3 avenues to address this. We can do legislative, which we're going to do tomorrow. We're going to pass Chairman Iss's bill, which says that some district judge injunction doesn't apply nationwide. We may want to come back with another bill that says automatic appeal to the Supreme Court, what you've suggested, and we're looking at that very thing. Second, we have oversight, which is what we're doing now. We're highlighting how ridiculous some of these decisions have been. Yeah. And third, what you pointed out is we got the appropriations process. The ultimate power we have, Mr. Massey's right, the power of the purse, we should use it. We should use all 3 of those avenues to make sure the will of the people, we the people, gets accomplished.
Well, my personal view is that if you were to pass the ISA bill tomorrow, you just sent a very clear and compelling signal to the Chief Justice that he had better get out of lecturing the Congress and get into managing the judiciary, or he's going to be facing a real crisis of the system and a real erosion of judicial authority.
Well said. I yield back.
Guys, so what they're talking about is this is going, and they have the votes to pass this tomorrow. This is big. So the H Represented 119-40, No Rogue Rulings Act of 2025. So basically, this is, I mean, we're not going to go through it all, guys, but this is the actual bill. Basically, this is saying no federal district judge who is in charge of a district is not allowed. Remember, there's over 800 of them in the United States, is not allowed to issue a nationwide injunction against the president. Now, that federal district judge can issue an injunction for their district, but not for blanket the entire United States. And because of the activism that we've seen, and we've showed you guys, 92% of all the judges that have issued blanket injunctions against the administrations have been appointed by Democrats. What is this all about? What are they trying to do? Guys, it's the deep state's only way of fighting back. It's only the only logical answer. We've just showed you that this breaking news where Elon Musk says the government deleted a terabyte of financial data to cover their crimes. They don't understand technology, so we recovered it. This was from the Institute of Peace that deleted it. We are attacking them in every single facet. And because of that, the gravy train is ending. All the slush fund is going away. The deep state is losing it. Because if we don't do this now, if we don't cut off the money supply now, we don't know where we could be at. Listen to this, because they've been trying to silence a lot of conservative voices for a while, but things are changing. And if you appreciate this, guys, if you don't mind hitting that thumbs up like button, thank you so much for your support. Check this out.
Let's discuss this with the host of the Ben Shapiro podcast, Ben Shapiro, who joins us now. Ben, great to see you. Thanks for being with us today.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
What do you think, Ben? I mean, this is something now we've seen play out in half a dozen countries across the world, 3 or 4 of them now in Europe, all pushing, quote unquote, self-described far-right parties out of a potential candidacy for presidency.
You know, when President Trump said a long time ago that the deep state was actively intervening in American politics in order to thwart a particular agenda, it turns out that he was right about that, but he was also right globally. It turns out that there is, in fact, an elitist deep state everywhere, from the European Union to Brazil to Israel to Romania, that is interested in overturning even the possibility of the will of the people in order to stop the bad guys from possibly winning. And the bad guys range, again, from Bibi Netanyahu in Israel, who, again, has been targeted by the legal establishment, to Bolsonaro in Brazil. Remember that in Brazil, Lula da Silva was actually in jail, and he was freed by the judiciary so he could run again. And then they moved to jail, Jair Bolsonaro. You're seeing the same thing happen now with Marine Le Pen, who is set to win this current election in France. The party that she leads was set to actually win the next election. And that.
So, guys, you hear that? Because y'all have heard about, Le Pen and all that's happened. Not allowed to run for office for like 5 years. It's not just happening here. It's happening across the world. And what's mind-blowing is that we are so deep into this. We're probably 12, 15 years deep into the deep state where they were controlling things at a high level. But for the first time ever, there's like this light that people are starting to see the truth that things are changing. And I'm so glad for this.
I think the giveaway is this. The jail sentence that you mentioned before, that is a suspended jail sentence. They're suspending that until the appeals can go through. You know it's not suspended? Her ban from running, which demonstrates exactly what they were after.
But what lies behind this, Ben? Is it simply an ideological simpatico, whether or not you're going from Brazil to Romania? Or is there a more organized global effort to control the choices democratically for the people in these countries? What is guiding and what is pushing
I don't know
forward
if there's any sort
the quote-unquote deep state?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's any shadowy coordination, but there certainly is an informal coalition of people who are perfectly willing to overthrow the levers of democracy in order to get where they want to go. And you see that in France, where, again, Le Pen's party is a very large party and would be a natural ally in many ways to Emmanuel Macron's current governing party. But he decided in the last stages of the last French election that he was actually going to throw his support, effectively speaking, to the full-scale left-wing insane socialists led by Mélenchon. And so the sort of center deciding that it would rather travel with the hard left than it would ever make any sort of coalitional effort with the right is the story, I think, that's been happening all over the globe. President Trump was able to overcome it here miraculously in a lot of ways. I think that they are holding back a tide that they simply cannot hold back. And if indeed Marine Le Pen ends up being barred from this next election, Jordan Bardella is probably the next president of France.
You know, I totally respect that people watching today are interested in American politics and are unfamiliar with many of these names. But the point is pushing back on the will of the people, which we saw illustrated here at home through the justice system, through the judicial system, and trying to limit Donald Trump's ability to run for president. Ben, maybe the most egregious example of this is actually in Romania, where Calin Georgescu won the first round of Romanian elections before a court overturned those election results, saying there were violations and massive Russian interference in the popular will. But you brought this up. You can only bottle this up for so long. And whether or not we saw it here at home, where it did work out through the democratic process, this is the type of stuff that does eventually lead to populist revolutions.
Yep.
If you're seeing candidates across the globe being told you can't run and people can't vote for you, you're not going to maintain a peaceful society.
That's exactly right. Not just populist revolutions. It actually leads, in the end, actually to more tyranny, because one of the institutions that's destroying itself here is the judiciary in every one of these countries. If the judiciary ends up being weaponized by one side of the political aisle, then the people don't just decide that they're going to buck the judiciary and do whatever they want to do. They also turn against the judiciary itself. And then when somebody actually does attempt to defy the judiciary, they say, well, why should they listen to you in the first place? You're the same people who decided you were going to ban the sort of candidate that I was going to vote for. So all these institutions, in an attempt to stop the bad guys from winning, have basically undermined themselves, and they are undermining democracy in every possible way with this sort of stuff. It really is amazing.
All right, Ben Shapiro, of course, the very, very popular Ben Shapiro podcast. Thanks for being with us today, Ben.
Guys, again, and what I love is why we show you this thing is because it's nothing, everything that we're seeing, it's been happening across the world. These illegal border crossings, these are the numbers for March. March of last year, 137,000. This year, 7,000. Down 94%. No new laws, no congressional laws have been instituted. All it was getting a new president. So all the BS that we heard from Biden and his administration was a complete lie. They need to be held accountable. They need to be standing before court because people's lives were ruined because illegal criminals came over and screwed up a lot of stuff. Want to say thank you so much, Sandra Mario Enzi, for the super chat. Let's go. Said, looks like 2/3 of the Democrats will be in striped pajamas. Hopefully some rhinos too. I wouldn't doubt it. Y'all show Sandra some love in the chat. This type of stuff is sickening because think about it. It could have been this way the entire time. It didn't have to be the way the Biden administration had it. So when we hear about all the changes that are happening, when we hear about everything that's coming due, we know that stuff is about to change, and thank God it's about to change. Check this out.
Impeach these judges who are trying to stop President Trump. What will this hearing accomplish? Tell me what you're expecting.
Well, we're going to highlight the bill we passed 4 weeks ago out of committee, a bill that says when you got some district judge in California, for example, who issues this injunction, it shouldn't apply nationwide. It should apply only to the parties in the case in that respective jurisdiction. So we'll highlight that bill that the speaker is going to put on the floor, the leader are going to put on the floor tomorrow, and we'll pass out of the House. And then we'll talk about just this broader fundamental question of really who decides. Is it the guy who put his name on the ballot, or is it the bureaucracy? Is it the guy who got 77 million votes from We the People, or is it some district trial judge in Timbuktu, California? And I think we're going to get to the heart of that issue and talk about things we can do in the legislative branch with oversight, with legislation like the bill we're going to pass tomorrow, and of course using the appropriations process and any other tool that we want to keep on the table to potentially use to make sure the people's will gets done through the guy they elected on November 5th.
Well, it's pretty incredible to me that the judge could actually make this stunning notion that he wants the flight to go back to America when we're told that there are Tren de Aragua dangerous gang members on the flight going to El Salvador.
Yeah, I mean, the American people have common sense and they look at this and they're thinking like, wait a minute, this judge said, turn the plane around, bring the bad guys back here. The bad guys who were here illegally, who did terrible things, who are part of an international gang, a terrorist organization, the Tren de Aragua gang, which everyone knows is notorious for all kinds of bad things. Turn that plane around and bring him back. And people are saying, are you kidding me? So this is the kind of thing we want to make sure we underscore and highlight and get some viewpoints from the people who've lived it, like Miss Romero in Aurora, Colorado, who lived it, who saw what happened to her community, to her apartment complex, to her car. She's going to talk about those things. And, of course, the perspective from Speaker Gingrich, who for 50 years almost now has devoted his life to protecting the Constitution and defending the values of our great country.
Well, look, your colleagues on the left are upset with President Trump and the speed with which he is moving to change the federal bureaucracy, no doubt about it. Democrat senators are giving a marathon speech on the Senate floor right now. They're still railing against President Trump and against Elon Musk and Doge. They started speaking last night.
Guys, this dude has been literally speaking for like 14 hours about nothing. Nonsense. 14 hours.
7 o'clock in the evening. Tesla Elon Musk seeing an increase of attacks. A man was arrested at an Idaho dealership for hitting a pro-Tesla demonstrator with his car. In Boston, police are hunting for a suspect accused of harassing Tesla owners, attacking their cars. And then in Arizona, an elderly woman driving a Tesla was brutally assaulted on a highway. Musk says he's not going to back down. He says Doge will investigate how certain lawmakers have accumulated a great deal of wealth while on a congressional salary, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, it's not like they're doing. Well, first of all, I mean, it's terrible what's happening to these individuals driving Teslas. I mean, it just shows you how ridiculous the left has become. And as Attorney General Bondi's indicated, these people are going to be prosecuted who do these terrible things. So God bless her for doing the right thing and enforcing the law. But I think it just underscores how crazy the left is. But also, it's not like it's a surprise. President Trump told us he was going to, bad guys who are here illegally are going to be sent back to their native country. He's doing that. He said, we're going to put Elon Musk in charge of this effort called Doge, and we're going to find wasteful, ridiculous spending. And he's doing that. It's not a surprise. Here's the shock, though. Most of the time, politicians, when they run for a job, say one thing and then get in office and do something else. Yeah. President Trump and Elon Musk are doing exactly what the president said was going to happen. Yes. And that really bothers the left. But it's the way I think we should operate. When you put your name on a ballot and you get elected, go do what you said. President Trump is doing that.
Well, I've got to tell you, I mean, we just spoke with Eric Trump a few minutes ago, and he was talking to us about getting debanked. And he named the banks, which canceled them. And I'm wondering if you're looking into this. I know Tim Scott in the Senate has been doing hearings about this, but he just laid it out for us. Watch this. Which banks canceled you? What happened?
Oh, God, everybody. Capital One being the largest. I've sued them recently. Chase canceled.
Okay, so it was Capital One, because I know that Capital One also canceled Melania Trump, I understand.
They came after us viciously because my father was in the White House, and they wanted to punish us, right? It was illegal lawfare. It was political lawfare. That's exactly what Capital One did. Chase did the same thing. Bank of America did the same thing. TD did the same thing. First Republic did the same thing to us.
Your reaction, Congressman?
Well, yeah, we had a whistleblower come testify and told us what Bank of America did 5 years ago when they...
Guys, does any of this surprise you? Like, I don't doubt it. Now that we're getting more evidence, it's all coming out. People are being exposed. I promise you, if if Kamala Harris would have won, we would know nothing. We would still be in the dark. We would still be trying to find corruption. And now we have found it. Thank God. If you appreciate this, guys, if you don't mind hitting that thumbs up like button, thank you so much for your support.
When they went to, actually 4 years ago, when the FBI went to them and said, turn over all the credit card, debit card purchases of anyone in the Washington, D.C. area on January 5th, 6th, and 7th, 2021. They didn't get any kind of warrant, any kind of subpoena. They just said, turn it over. That's the government working with banks, and banks gave that kind of information over, and we're focused on going after conservatives, asking all kinds of questions about if they were conservative, what have you. So we know this is, of course, we're going to look into this, because this is all part of this, the left coming after their political opponents using whatever means they can, and we all know it's wrong.
I just want to point out that Capital One has responded and gave us a statement since Eric Trump is suing them, and the Trump family is suing these banks. Capital One has not and does not close customer accounts for political reasons, is the statement from Capital One. How will you look into this? What is the next step here?
Well, we'll work with the Financial Services Committee. We did an investigation. We released a report last year where banks were asking certain things. They were talking about, it might be a reputational risk to your company if you do this, if you engage in certain kind of behavior, if you bank certain kind of individuals. That were getting pressure from the government. So we'll look at both of that, what the banks are doing and the pressure coming from the Biden administration, look back on that as well. But we'll work with the Financial Services Committee, French Hill, the chairman here on the House side. So we'll try to work with them, because they're looking at a number of issues in the financial services sector.
Meanwhile, President Trump's anti-Semitism task force reportedly suspending more than $200 million in federal funding at Princeton. They're also reviewing nearly $9 billion in federal grants and some $225 million in contracts to Harvard. Mr. Chairman, the House Judiciary Committee is investigating whether the Biden administration gave federal funding to fuel the protests against Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his reforms. Tell us more.
Well, our hypothesis is the left, not just here, but all over the world. And we believe they went after Prime Minister Netanyahu just like they went after President Trump. What we're trying to figure out is, did in fact American tax dollars get funneled through NGOs that then were used in Israel to undermine the Prime Minister? Right now, we know the Prime Minister is he's got a criminal action against him. He has to testify hours every week while he's trying to run his country in the middle of a war, for goodness sake. So we know what the left is doing to him. We believe we're starting to find some evidence pointing to American tax dollars being funneled through NGOs that are being used to undermine the prime minister, and we want to get to the bottom of it.
Unbelievable.
Guys, if you cannot make up sometimes how crazy the leftist ideas get when it comes to their thoughts on what is right, socialism, communism, things like that. That's where it all derives from. Did you realize that right now in California, they're launching its speed safety system pilot program, which will issue speeding tickets based on your income bracket? So again, it starts with this. First, you get treated a certain way because of how much money you make. Then it goes to how you look, DEI. Then it goes to what job you can have. Then it goes to what benefits you can have. And then it never stops there. This would be going nationwide if Kamala Harris was president, if the left progressive had their ways. But what I'm so glad is that, again, people see this stuff and all they see is socialism, communism. They see this and they think, I don't want any part of that. I want truth. I want justice. I want the right way. I want to be treated the same way, regardless of what I look like, regardless of where I come from, regardless of how much money I make. We should all be treated equally and fairly. That's what makes America the best of the best. And what I love too, guys, is that people are coming out of the woodworks to stand up for what's right. Check this out.
Johnson and Scanlon and all the members of the subcommittees for allowing me to testify. There is clearly a potential constitutional crisis involving the judicial branch's effort to fully override the legislative and executive branches. 15 district judges effectively seized control of various executive branch duties in the first 6 weeks of the current presidency through nationwide injunctions. This is potentially a judicial coup d'etat. It clearly violates the Constitution and more than 200 years of American history. To set the stage for this hearing, let me mention 12 former federal judges appointed by President John Adams: Richard Bassett, Egbert Benson, Benjamin Bourne, William Griffith, Samuel Hitchcock, Philip Barton Kay, Jeremiah Smith, George Keith Taylor, Oliver Wilcott Jr., Williams McClung, Charles McGill, and Williams Tillman. President Adams appointed these federal judges on his way out of office to hamstring the incoming President Thomas Jefferson's agenda. President Jefferson concluded that impeaching the judges would take too much time. He and the Congress simply abolished the courts in which they served via the Judiciary Act of 1802. This is a constitutional balance of power. The legislative and executive branches can reshape the judiciary branch. It is a useful reminder in considering the current situation. Unelected lower court judges have been steadily grabbing power for years. It was such an obvious threat that in 2012, Vince Haley and I wrote, "Bringing the Court Back Under the Constitution." It is an historic study which I am submitting for the record. According to Harvard Law Review, there were 96 nationwide injunctions ordered by district courts from 2001 to 2023. 2/3 of them, 64, were issued during President's time in office. Furthermore, 92% of the injunctions against President Trump were issued by judges appointed by Democratic presidents. Since January 20th, 2025, lower courts have imposed 15 nationwide injunctions against the current Trump administration. This is compared to 6 during George W. Bush's 8 years, 12 during Barack Obama's 8 years, and 14 during Joe Biden's 4-year term. The notion that unelected lawyers can micromanage the executive branch and override a commander-in-chief who received 77.3 million votes should trouble every American.
Yes.
This is particularly troubling for issues of national defense and public safety. Around 500 BC, Sun Tzu asserted in The Art of War that, quote, "Speed is the essence of war." How can the United States have speed in national security issues if opponents can judge shop to find someone ambitious or arrogant enough to block, repudiate, or delay the president's decisions? There are 677 authorized district judgeships. How many think they can override duly elected presidents? This summary statement has 4 propositions. First, The courts have often been challenged. President Jefferson wrote, quote, "Judges as the ultimate arbiters of all constitutional questions would place us under the despotism of an oligarchy," close quote. President Andrew Jackson was in constant fights with the Supreme Court. President Abraham Lincoln made the Dred Scott decision expanding slavery a centerpiece of his 1858 senatorial campaign. In his first inaugural, President Lincoln warned that if the Supreme Court held supreme rule, quote, "the people will have ceased to be their own rulers, having to that extent practically resigned their government into the hands of that eminent tribunal," close quote. Second, as the Judiciary Act of 1802 proves, the legislative and executive branches can constitutionally defend their rights, and they have in the past. It is historically and constitutionally wrong to think the legislative and executive branches are helpless against judiciary actions. Third, the Supreme Court could intervene to eliminate this attack on the executive branch by district judges. Chief Justice Roberts could end the growing confrontation by establishing a rule that any nationwide injunction issued by a district court against the executive branch would be suspended in implementation and immediately taken up by the Supreme Court. This would remedy the lengthy appeals process. Fourth, the Congress and the President can take decisive steps toward bringing the judiciary back into a constitutional framework. This hearing is a good first step. There could be a series of hearings on the constitutional and historic framework, which ensures no single branch of government can acquire dictatorial powers, specifically the judiciary and this committee. These hearings would educate the members and the American people. They would create a national understanding of the need to defend the Constitution against overreaching branches of government. I would also recommend that the Congress pass Chairman Iss's No Rogue Rulings Act, which is a good signal to the courts that they have gone too far. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you. Ms.
Guys,
Ferrara.
again, bringing the facts, dropping the mic. They've got to do something about this. Because again, too, everything that Trump is trying to push forward, and again, I understand, what they're trying to do is make Trump look like he's a dictator by stopping and doing these federal injunctions. Because if they say, oh, look, we stopped him because he's doing this, then what it looks like is that Trump is overstepping when he's actually not. The people he's firing report to the executive branch. He is the commander-in-chief that is in charge of the nation's defense and at the highest level. So when you see this blows my mind that we're literally having to go through these processes and the Supreme Court hasn't stepped in yet, which tells me this is involved, guys, right here. The money's involved. People are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And it's literally a fight to the end to get justice in the right way that it should be for America. I wanted to show you this. Breaking: all staffers and U.S. diplomats assigned to USAID abroad are set to be terminated, per Reuters. This comes after most U.S.-based positions were eliminated by Secretary Rubio last week. USAID was the slush fund for Harris, for the administration, for all of them, guys. Now, look at them now. Now that everything has gone away, what's left of them? Check this out.
What's left of Biden's legacy is buried in a pile of books written by his old pals in the media. Democrats are leaking all Biden's dirty secrets to reporters. He was even worse than we thought. A new book, Fight: Inside the Wildest Battle for the White House, says Biden hired a makeup artist to make him look younger. He'd get touch-ups before Zoom calls, foreign trips, and briefings. Was he wearing more makeup than Kamala? Like I'm one to talk. Biden also started to not recognize people. He met with Congressman Eric Swalwell and had no idea who he was. Swalwell had to drop little hints like, remember, I debated you on stage during the primary? Fang Fang's boyfriend, remember?
Yeah.
But it never should have gotten this bad. One of Biden's friends told the author that Joe's choice to run again was the original sin. They blame Biden's family for not telling him to hang it up. The same book reveals that Kamala desperately begged Biden for his endorsement. After Joe called Kamala to tell her he was going to drop out, she said, quote, "You need to endorse me." Biden wanted to wait a couple days after his exit to announce his endorsement, but Kamala begged, quote, "This is important for your legacy to show that you have absolute faith in your VP." Obama didn't think Kamala should be the candidate. He wanted an open primary. But Biden's early endorsement set the Democrat machine in motion. She was in. Obama was eventually forced to endorse her, but it was completely phony. Kamala's team wanted Obama to do it on video, but Michelle refused to go on camera, so they phoned it in instead.
Wow.
It was all scripted.
Kamala.
Hello. Hi.
Hey there.
Oh, hi, you're both together.
We called to say Michelle and I couldn't be prouder to endorse you and to do everything we can to get you through this election and into the Oval Office.
Oh, my goodness. Michelle, Brock, this means so much to me.
We all know Kamala's not authentic. That's why her campaign crashed and burned. But Biden's press flack says we just didn't have enough time to fully appreciate Kamala's charm.
I mean, I don't know her super well or anything, but I've been around her. She is very engaging. She's obviously brilliant. She's funny. She obviously has this great laugh. People didn't see all of that. Was it possible to see that in 100 days? I don't know.
Did she just say she had a great laugh? Are you talking about the Kamala cackle? Guys, these people are losing it. What I'm about to show you next, you're going to be like, you got to be kidding me.
100 days? We had 4 years to get to know her. That's why she had to strong-arm the nomination from Biden. She didn't earn it. The media doubts Kamala can even get elected as governor of her own state.
I think voters are going to be looking for somebody from the outside, and I think that Harris, somebody who's the former vice president, former U.S. senator, former district attorney in San Francisco, how does she sell change? She's got to somehow run against Gavin Newsom's governorship. So I just don't see the path for her.
Kamala thought she could be the pantsuit messiah and could just swap joy in for hope and change.
One of the most dangerous things to me about both how Joe Biden and then Kamala Harris ran was they ran fully in defense of, not in reform of. It is the tolerance of government failure on the left that I actually can't abide. Like, if you are the people who believe government should do things, then make it do things, and when it doesn't, get mad and change it.
Dang.
But just moving on and making excuses and then saying, like, well, what about them? It's not good enough. And the way you know it's not good enough is you're losing, and you're losing people.
Democrats only want change when there's a Republican in charge. They're not passionate about anything except following orders.
The worst media training advice, I'm obsessed with this, people give is answer the question you want to answer. That is the freaking worst advice, especially for this moment in time. If you ask them or I ask them, hey, what do you think should be done about Elon Musk, right? And their answer is, we're going to build roads and bridges and defend the Affordable Care Act. People at home are like, what in the hell? Right? It's like almost disrespectful to them.
Voters responded to that disrespect on Election Day. Now Democrats have an empty bench. Maybe they should bring back Obama.
If you were allowed, for some reason, to run for a third term, is there a thought that the Democrats could try to run Barack Obama against you?
I'd love that.
For his third term?
Oh, I'd love that. That would be a good one. I'd like that.
Run a third term, Obama versus Trump. Wow, guys, let me tell you this. The left is losing it. CJ Young, thank you so much for the super chat. Let's go. He said, fast for peace. Amen. Y'all show CJ some love in the chat. Cory Booker has been on the Senate floor for almost 20 hours, and he is losing it. Guys, is this not the face of change? Wow, 20 hours. What is he trying to prove? Trying to filibuster? All this stuff, guys. The Democrats don't have any more things to fight because they have lost. Look, right here, Elon Musk says the U.S. government deleted a terabyte of financial data to cover their crimes, but they don't understand technology, so we recovered it. We even got Newsweek that's reported it. And what is happening, guys? We are seeing the truth. All this stuff that's happening, it was actually the Institute of Peace, funded by Taliban and Iraqi leaders. Again, I say you can't make this stuff up. They're so far removed from reality, from the American dream, from what people truly want, that they are losing it. And what I love is that every single thing is being exposed right now because of two people, two anti-establishment, anti-woke, common sense people, both billionaires, both American patriots, Trump and Elon Musk. And what I love is this next, guys. Check this out.
The gentleman from Texas, Mr. Gooden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Shaw, earlier you said that you worried that some of the intent of these actions will have a chilling effect to disincentivize the taking on of clients, and that the legal system we have requires lawyers to take on unpopular clients. Would you expand on that, please?
So, lawyers, the idea that even individuals charged with crimes are entitled to counsel and to vigorous representation in their defense, regardless of what they may have done, is actually a core kind of belief pillar of our legal system. And so that's one example. Individuals, even charged with serious crimes, have a right to counsel.
So I guess one of the things that I struggle with is after the 2020 election, one of the groups that comes to mind is the 65 Project, which is a legal activism campaign seeking to disbar and discredit Trump-affiliated lawyers who worked on lawsuits supporting Trump's attempts to question the 2020 election. They're a dark money group, and I don't recall my colleagues or you speaking out against this. And in fact, there were attorneys that were disbarred for representing their client. Now, sure, there's folks in this room that didn't agree with them. But one of the things you said during that time was, quote, there need to be serious social, professional, and reputational kinds of sanctions if we want to disincentivize this kind of conduct. And I think this kind of conduct is perhaps taking on a client that supports a belief that maybe is not popular. And I really hope that we'll get away from this lawfare. And that's something that was prevalent over the last 4 years throughout this campaign, and now we're seeing it from this judiciary. And I'm disappointed in this judge, but I am happy we're having this discussion, and I'll yield the balance of my time to Chairman Jordan.
Oh, I thank the gentleman for yielding. Some of the previous speakers on the other side have said, members on the other side have said, attacks by President Trump, I think I got this right, attacks by President Trump on the judiciary are dangerous. They said criticism of judges weakens the judiciary. Mr. Larkin, have Democrats ever criticized the judiciary?
Yes, sir.
Can you give me an example that maybe comes to mind? I mean, I have several, but I want to know what's one that comes to mind for you?
Well, I guess the best example and recently was the Supreme Court's decision in Dobbs to overturn Roe versus Wade.
Yeah, where like hundreds of churches and pro-life centers were attacked and firebombed and got all kinds of criticism coming from people that have. How about this one? How about the minority leader in the Senate said, I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you've released the whirlwind and you will pay the price.
Dang.
How about that one? You remember that one, Speaker Gingrich, from Senator Schumer?
Well, I think it's fair to say that the passion of the left when the court does the wrong thing probably is more professionally organized than any passion on the right.
Ooh.
But look, I mean, Franklin Roosevelt tried to pack the court. He was a Democrat. There's a long tradition in America that we're allowed to argue over. The courts they're not temples. This is not a religious judicial system. It's a secular judicial system.
Yeah, fair enough. And look, we're going to criticize decisions all along. We're getting it one way. This goes both ways. Both sides have criticized the courts, criticized decisions. We're allowed to do that in this country. That's the way it works. Professor Shaw, do you think it was appropriate for what Mr. Schumer, Senator Schumer said on the steps of the Supreme Court when he said you will pay the price, referencing two sitting members of the United States Supreme Court?
I think he should have phrased it differently. I'm sure he feels the same way.
What about the Dobbs leak? What do you think about that and some of the comments that were made after that decision was leaked? Think that was good?
I'm not sure what comments you're talking about. That there were very, very sharp criticism of Justice Alito's opinion in Dobbs. I think that's perfectly healthy, yes.
I think we had a member said that there should be impeachment for the decisions that happened after the Dobbs decision. There should be impeachment of one of the Supreme Court justices. A member of Congress said that. Do you think that's appropriate?
You know, impeachment rhetoric is something that we have seen from time to time. I guess I'm not categorically opposed to talking about it. I think introducing resolutions, as we've seen, has been a significant escalation. And of course, it would depend on why. I mean, I think there was serious discussion of impeachment of several sitting Supreme Court justices over ethics matters in the last few years. I don't think there's anything unhealthy about those discussions.
It's okay to talk about impeaching Supreme Court justices. It's okay to add 4 associate justices to the Supreme Court, and you had no problems with the comments made after the Dobbs leak. Is that your testimony?
You know, I'm sorry, I'm not sure what specific comments you're talking about, but criticism of the substance of the Dobbs ruling, I have no problem with that.
Okay, I yield back.
The witnesses have been very kind.
You see that, guys? I'm telling you, like, things with this whole thing is coming. Like, we're just 2 months in, guys, and we're catching all of this. All this corruption, guys, of covering up crimes. And I just want to say thank you to everybody that is watching. Thank you to all of our subscribers, to all of our viewers. If you're not subscribed, please consider joining our True Life News family so we can serve you every day with the top news. And if you don't mind hitting that thumbs up like button, thank you so much for your support. We're here to bring you the truth, guys. And we're seeing this every single day that more and more is being uncovered. And we want to show you the breaking news. We want to show you things you're not going to see on mainstream media. And we believe that no matter what, we've got to show you from multiple networks, multiple channels, so that you get a full picture of what is actually going on. And we just want to say thank you for all your support. I want to say thank you to all of our members. I want to say thank you to Brenda Caps. Welcome to the family. Let's go. Y'all show Brenda some love in the chat. If you want to be a member, guys, the link is in the description to join. And remember, we take these membership, whenever you pay in a membership or you give a super chat, we give that to charity live on stream so that you can see that we're giving back. And our memberships start off at 99 cents. And it's something that we've always dreamed about, being able to bring a community together to just make positive change. We live in a crazy world, guys. Things are happening all the time. We want to do some good in this world. And I just want to say thank you to everybody that supports. Want to give some love to B1 Sly One, Lay Lewis, Sandra Marioenzi, CJ Young, Brenda Caps. Guys, show them some love in the chat. We love you all. We're here to serve you Monday through Friday, 2 shows a day, 1 on Saturday, 1 on Sunday. And we'll see you in the next one. Take care.